Off of. Off of. Off. They called it your failure, but it was the masterpiece that left everyone speechless. Yeah, that's right, stop. Look, feel it. Every eye rolling at you, every smirk, every whispered, you can't. It all led here. They labeled it failure. They framed your pain as weakness. They cheered when you fell. But what they didn't see, what they never saw coming, was you. Because while they were counting your stumbles, you were writing a symphony in the shadows. While they mocked, you were forging a masterpiece. Every misstep, every loss, every blood-stained, sleepless, haunted night. They didn't know they were witnessing the blueprint of your dominion. Oh, they laughed, didn't they? They snickered when you hit the ground. They whispered in corners, "She's done. He's done. It's over." But here's the kicker. They didn't know that the fall is where the gods are born. That what they called failure is the raw, unpolished fire of a mind too dangerous to ignore. Do you feel that heat in your chest? That burning rage? That electric, insane clarity that whispers, "Let them watch. Let them choke on their doubt. Let them die in their tiny, safe little lives while I create chaos in mine." That's the magic. That's the dark, delicious truth. They can't touch it. They can't stop it. And the harder they push, the sharper your edge becomes. Think about it. Every "you can't" became fuel. Every scoff, every sneer, every stone thrown at you, a stepping stone. Every lock they slammed shut. A door you're burning down. They believed in limits. They worshipped mediocrity. They patted each other on the back for obeying rules they couldn't even imagine breaking. And you were already 3 moves ahead. You didn't just fail. You transcended failure. And here's the truth they will never accept. Mastery doesn't come from playing safe. Mastery comes from leaning into the abyss, from letting the world believe it's over while you quietly, violently, unapologetically build a cathedral of chaos. They didn't see the masterpiece in the mess. They didn't see the brilliance in the breakdown, but that's because only a few have the stomach to watch a phoenix burn and rise in real time. And they thought you were just ashes. Every time they called you broken, you were constructing something they could never touch. Every time they doubted you, you were proving that reality bends for the audacious. Every time they laughed, your silence screamed louder than their applause could ever reach. So smile. Smile when they shake their heads. Smile when they demand your explanation. Smile when they beg for the secret. Because there is no secret. There's only the refusal to obey the world's tiny, polite, forgettable narrative. You are the heresy they didn't account for. You are the anomaly they can't categorize. You are the proof that limits are optional. That failure is just another mask of triumph waiting to be worn. Off. Let it echo in their skulls. Let it burn in their dreams. Let them watch in horror as the failure they celebrated becomes a legend they never saw coming. They called it defeat. You called it life. You called it creation. You called it war. And in the end, the masterpiece doesn't whisper. It roars. It consumes. It laughs at those too timid to ever risk it. So when the world screams that you lost, remember this. You didn't lose. You transcended. You shocked the system. You burned the script. And every eye that doubted you will bow before the chaos you leave behind. Failure? Nah. That was the rehearsal. That was the spark. That was the crucible, the masterpiece, the one that leaves everyone speechless. It's only just begun. They thought the story ended where you collapsed. They assumed the silence meant surrender. They mistook your disappearance for defeat. That was their first mistake. Because what they never understood is this: real transformation doesn't announce itself. It doesn't beg for witnesses. It happens underground, under pressure, where comfort suffocates and only the ruthless parts of you survive. While they were busy rewriting your ending, you were dismantling the person who failed and replacing them with something colder, sharper, more intentional. Failure didn't break you. It stripped you. It burned away the version of you that needed approval. It killed the part that hoped to be understood. It erased the weakness of wanting permission, and what stood up afterward wasn't desperate. It wasn't loud. It wasn't begging to be seen. It was precise. They don't realize this yet, but the moment they labeled you a failure, they lost control of you. Shame only works on people who still care about fitting in. Embarrassment only destroys those who still want a seat at the table. Once you accepted being misunderstood, the leash snapped. From that point on, every move you made was yours alone. That's when the danger began. Because you stopped performing for applause and started operating for results. You stopped explaining. You stopped correcting their assumptions. You let them believe whatever made them comfortable. People underestimate silence because they confuse it with emptiness. Silence is where plans sharpen. Silence is where patience becomes lethal. Every setback trained you. Every loss refined your timing. Every moment they celebrated your collapse taught you exactly how blind they were. They saw chaos. You saw structure. They saw collapse. You saw leverage. They saw a dead end. You saw a door disguised as a wall. That's the difference between spectators and architects. Understand this. History never celebrates the obedient. It remembers the ones who made others uncomfortable. The ones whose progress looked like insanity until it was undeniable. The ones who were mocked right up until the moment everyone pretended they believed in them all along. And that moment is coming, not as revenge. Revenge is noisy and short-lived. This is something colder. This is inevitability. This is the quiet horror on their faces when they realize the person they dismissed learned everything from the fall they laughed at. They will replay old conversations in their heads. They will question their judgment. They will wonder how they missed it. They didn't miss it. They dismissed it. And dismissal is the most expensive mistake arrogance can make. What you're building now doesn't need validation. It needs consistency, precision, ruthless follow-through. The masterpiece was never meant to be understood mid-creation. Only amateurs explain themselves while building. Masters let the results speak when it's too late to argue. So keep going. Let them cling to the version of you that failed. Let them anchor their expectations to your worst moment. Let them underestimate the discipline that was born from humiliation. Because when the final outcome stands in front of them, fully formed, undeniable, immovable, it won't ask for forgiveness. It won't offer explanations. It will simply exist. And their silence will be louder than their laughter ever was. This isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving that collapse was part of the design. The masterpiece was never the win. It was the transformation that made the win unavoidable. And they won't clap. They won't celebrate. They'll just stare, speechless, trying to understand how the thing they called failure became the standard they can never reach. They will try to rewrite the story. They always do. When a failure transforms into a masterpiece, the world panics. They will pretend they saw it coming. They will invent excuses for why it worked this time. They will rewrite history to soothe their bruised egos, to preserve their illusion of control. But deep down, every instinct, every quiet observation, every shadowed corner of their minds knows the truth. They were blind. They missed it. They dismissed it. They underestimated the fire they refused to see. And that's the cruelest irony. The louder they lie about it, the clearer it becomes. The masterpiece doesn't bend to narrative. It doesn't conform to expectation. It doesn't wait for applause or understanding. It exists to unmask mediocrity, to humiliate ignorance, to make arrogance tremble in the wake of raw, undeniable force. Let them speak. Let them gossip. Let them debate, theorize, panic. Their words are echoes bouncing off walls you already burned through. They call it luck. They call it timing. They call it freak chance. Anything to deny what they witnessed, the undeniable, cold, precise truth. You turned everything they believed about failure into fuel. Every ridicule, every whisper, every scoff became the scaffolding of something unstoppable. The greatest victories are invisible. The ones everyone sees as luck are often the ones carefully plotted in shadows, nourished by pain, perfected by disdain. And the greatest crimes, the ones that leave them speechless, are committed quietly, patiently, ruthlessly. Here's the thing they will never understand. Real power doesn't roar in celebration. It moves like a predator, quiet, calculated, unstoppable. You've walked through fire. You've survived storms they thought would consume you. You've felt humiliation sharpen your instincts, despair polish your vision, and isolation forge your resolve. That is the weight of mastery. That is the price of proving failure was never real. Do you see why they panic now? Because they believed themselves untouchable. They believed structure, rules, and conformity could contain reality. They believed their small, comfortable lives were the ultimate measure of success. And then, you appeared. Not as a disruptor screaming for attention, not as a rebel flaunting rebellion. You emerged as the natural anomaly, the glitch in the system that could not be corrected, contained, or understood. Their panic is their acknowledgement. Their confusion is their confession. Their awe, silent and grudging, is the only applause that matters. They will never admit it aloud, because admitting it aloud means they were wrong, and arrogance cannot admit error. But you don't need their admission. Their disbelief is your signature. Their fear is your crown. Their silence is the echo of the masterpiece they refused to see. And now comes the most delicious part: control. Not theirs, never theirs again. Control is the language of chaos, and you speak it fluently. Every action, every decision, every seemingly minor choice is a statement, a reminder that what they call failure was nothing more than the rehearsal for inevitability. You've rewritten probability. You've ignored conventions. You've shattered expectation, and they will live in the shadow of that fact for the rest of their days. Because here's what most people will never admit to themselves. They are terrified of people who fail forward. They fear anyone who can take shame and mold it into dominance. They hate those who stumble, fall, and rise in ways that make collapse itself look like a lie. They envy it, they dread it, and they cannot stop it. You were never meant to be ordinary. You were never meant to fit into their rules, their comfort, their definitions. Ordinary is for those who need approval. Ordinary is for those too afraid to risk being misunderstood. Ordinary is for people who applaud safe victories and gasp at bravery. And you are not ordinary. You are the exception, the heretic, the anomaly. The one they labeled broken before you even decided to rise. Take a moment, just for a heartbeat, and imagine it. Every eye that doubted you, every voice that laughed, every soul that wrote you off as finished, now forced to witness the uncontainable truth. Not because you shouted it, not because you begged them to see it, but because it simply exists. because it is undeniable, because it leaves no room for argument. And in their silence, you will hear something sweeter than any applause, the recognition that they were never in control, that their judgment, their ridicule, their mockery, their expectations, all meaningless, that what they called failure was only the seed of an empire they never saw sprouting. Every scar, every bruise, every late-night tear has its purpose. Every disappointment, every no, every rejection refined you, sharpened you, hardened you. The world loves stories of luck, talent, and easy victories, but you are not a story the world can tell. You are a warning, a lesson, a nightmare dressed as triumph. And when they finally realize it, when the pieces align in their minds and they understand the scale of what you've done, it will be too late. Too late to apologize, too late to imitate, too late to correct their error. You will not be their failure ever again. You will be the force that leaves every assumption shattered, every expectation humiliated, every narrative rewritten. They called it failure. You call it life. They celebrated collapse. You orchestrated ascension. They mocked weakness. You mastered the impossible. And in the quiet aftermath, when the world finally sees it, they will not know whether to fear you or worship you. That is the power of someone who has been crucified by doubt and rose anyway. That is the artistry of turning shame into supremacy. That is the truth. What they called your failure was only the beginning of a masterpiece that leaves everyone speechless. They are still pretending. The world around you, all of it, is still pretending it knows you. They tell themselves stories to survive your presence. They rationalize. They explain away. They cling to illusions that make their fear tolerable. But you know the truth. You felt the tremor in the system that they will never feel, the quake of inevitability that runs through every move they make when your shadow passes across their line of sight. They see the masterpiece forming. They know it is unstoppable, and yet they have no way to stop it. They are spectators of a process too precise, too dark, too intelligent to interfere with. They call it luck. They call it chaos. They call it madness. All of it. Every word they use is a confession of impotence. Every label, every insult, every half-hearted warning, proof that they are outclassed in ways they cannot comprehend. Because here's the cruel, beautiful truth. Mastery doesn't need witnesses. It doesn't need cheerleaders. It doesn't care who applauds or who sneers. It grows, quiet and ruthless, until the moment it reveals itself in full. And when it does, oh, the shock, the terror, the awe. They will not understand how something so impossible could be built from the ruins they thought they orchestrated. They will not know that every ridicule, every laugh, every failure they threw at you became bricks in a fortress they cannot breach. They will panic when their rules crumble. They will rage when their systems fail. They will attempt to rewrite the story, desperate to place you back where they think you belong, small, contained, harmless. But it is too late. You do not belong anywhere except in the void they cannot control, the space they cannot measure, the world they cannot anticipate. Every prediction they made, every expectation they relied on, every assumption about your limits is now a monument to their own ignorance. Let them quake. Let them sweat. Let them whisper to each other in secret, trying to imagine how you did what they swore was impossible. Let them study, analyze, theorize, and fail. Their obsession with you, born of fear and disbelief, is exactly the energy you need. Their confusion, their panic, their dread. It fuels the masterpiece without them ever realizing it. They are part of your creation even in their denial, and they will try to reach you. Oh yes, They will attempt distraction, manipulation, coercion. They will attempt to break your rhythm, to steal your momentum, to bend you to their convenience. But they are too late. Every attempt will only expose their weakness. Every intrusion will reinforce your strength. Every challenge they send your way is merely another brushstroke in the dark, vivid portrait. You are painting a portrait too brilliant, too terrifying, too precise for anyone to ignore. They don't yet understand fear. Not real fear. Not the type that comes from knowing a force exists that cannot be predicted, cannot be controlled, and cannot be stopped. They think they fear failure. They think they fear chaos. But what they fear, deep down, is you. Your audacity, your refusal to obey, your mastery of the unthinkable, your ability to transform ridicule, disappointment, and defeat into a weapon. Do not pity them. Do not wait for recognition. They are too late. They have already lost. And every second they spend scrambling to understand what you've become only cements your dominance. Every glance filled with doubt, every whisper laced with fear, every hesitating step they take in your presence is a victory in itself. The masterpiece is not just in what you do. It is in their reaction, or lack thereof. It is in the way the world struggles to categorize you, to quantify you, to rationalize your existence. They will call you anomalous. They will call you insane. They will call you a freak. They will call you everything they are too cowardly to become. And all of it is true. And all of it is yours.